Video. Today we're doing two NFL player props here on PrizePicks for Thursday, December 12th. Before we get started, you guys take a look in the description below of the video. Hop into the Discord, $9.30 per month. Currently doing a promo right now, 20% off your first month. If you are a first-time member in the Discord, again, to where I post all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks. We have other cappers in there as well. Overall, you guys, super positive community. Everyone in the Discord just trying to help each other cash. Also, you guys go ahead and follow me on Twitter, at ToughPicks, looking to post daily plays of the day over there. Trying to keep them separate from the YouTube plays of the day. But yeah, let's get into it, you guys. I want to keep this video as brief and concise as possible for everybody. Again, please drop a like and hit that subscribe button. We went 2-0. We cashed on both of our YouTube plays yesterday for NBA, the NBA Cup quarterfinals. Kuminga Fantasy and Emon Thompson Fantasy. Super free, honestly. So again, please drop a like if you cashed on any of those two plays yesterday. But let's get into this game here. Rams 49ers, one of the better, I think, in my opinion, projected Thursday night football games we've seen all season. 49.5 point game total, 3-point spread in San Francisco. Obviously, massive playoff implications for both these teams here. If we kind of look at the playoff standings, right? But actually a must win for both teams in my opinion. But yeah, huge, absolutely huge game. In this one, Rams here sitting at 7-6, right outside the playoff picture. And then pretty much if the 49ers lose, the playoffs are looking pretty bleak for them, I think. But nonetheless, let's get into it. I got two player props that I do like from this game. Both props are going to be fantasy score props. And actually, I was recording a video last night, and while I was recording the video, one of these plays got removed, and the other one bumped. So, yeah, let's get into it. So Matthew Stafford over 17 fantasy scores the first play. I just think, in a game that coming off the Rams again, the short week, right? And the Rams just gave up 44 plus points to the Bills. So I do think the 49ers are going to be able to score points, put points on the board. And, 49.5 point game total. Matthew Stafford should be throwing that ball all over the field. But taking a look at this one, Matthew Stafford, he's been heating up as of late. You can see here 17 plus fantasy points really since week 8. And it kind of coincides with Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua both being healthy. And if we talk about these three players, right, we talk about Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and Kyron Williams, right? If we just look at Matthew Stafford's last 10 games when 44 total points are scored, again, this is outlier, by the way. You can get a 7-day free trial with the link in the description below. Matthew Stafford's last 10 games when all three of those players play, he's over in 8 of his last 10 games, averaging 20.47 fantasy points, right? We know as well, books, I've actually refreshed this to see if the odds have changed. Books, heavily favoring over 1.5 passing touchdowns, right? Minus 145, minus 135 on Bet365, minus 154 on Caesars. And again, that pass, I think the Goblin pass TDs is, it's a Goblin. 1.5 pass TDs is a Goblin. So, again, anytime this 1.5 pass TDs Goblin and 1.5 pass TDs is heavily favored, I love pivoting to take fantasy score here. Because if you take a look at Matthew Stafford this season, in games when he does throw 2 touchdowns, he's had at least 15.6 fantasy points in every single game. And again, if he's going to have, 2 passing touchdowns, he should be very, very close to that 17 fantasy point score, right? Essentially upside. So again, also, the 49ers defense is reeling. I would say we know Nick Bosa had limited practice Wednesday. He's questionable. Dre Greenlaw is questionable as well. Malik Mustafa is out. And Khalil Davis is also questionable. So again, there is some injuries. I think obviously helps Matthew Stafford a ton if Nick Bosa is ruled out of this game. Obviously, we don't know. I'm going to refresh this actually just to see if anything has changed. In the short period of time since I started recording this video, yeah, he's still questionable. But again, obviously, I still like him if Bosa does end up playing. But nonetheless, we look at other quarterbacks' fantasy score game log this season versus the 49ers. Just the last couple of weeks, we've seen it kind of a decently high floor for quarterbacks versus the 49ers, right, this season. We take a look at quarterbacks. 14 plus fantasy points for each quarterback against the 49ers. We saw Josh Allen put up 28.3. I just, again, think there's a ton of upside for Matthew Stafford with all three of those guys, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Kyron Williams healthy. Even this season alone, over in 5 of 6 games, averaging 21.36 fantasy points. So great spot for Stafford. I like him a lot here at 17. The second play here is going to be an interesting one. And again, you don't need to tail this if you don't like it, but I'm going Deebo over 12 fantasy score. I think it's just a buy low for Deebo Samuel. He's been in the news all week getting ripped apart. People are saying he's washed, he's not good, et cetera, dropped passes. And again, I don't agree with that. Again, at the same time too, like the usage hasn't necessarily been there for Deebo, and it's interesting because there is no Brandon Ayuk, there is no Christian McCaffrey. Let's go back to 2020. Let's go back to 2021, right? Deebo, we talk about PPR fantasy scoring, 12. He was over at least 10 PPR fantasy points in every game in 2021, and had at least 12 fantasy points in every game except for 3, right? Go back to 2022, same sort of situation, right? The floor for this line, extremely high. 2023, even last season, right, had a pretty decent hit rate. This season has been tough for him, right? It's been tough for him, but we know the type of player and playmaker Deebo Samuel is, right? He's over this line in actually only 5 games this season. But a couple things to talk about here, specifically. He's still leading the 49ers in snap count, right? Like, easily. And I mean, he played 79% of snaps last week. I mean, he is pretty much seeing, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 snap count continuously. Like, I mean, he's on the field a ton. So that's not changing. It's just more so the usage and the way they are getting him the ball. But it's a great matchup. It's a really good matchup. We talk about the Rams. Over the last 8 weeks, they are allowing the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers. And again, obviously, Deebo Samuel is kind of a Swiss Army knife type of player. And then we look at Deebo Samuel. Hold on. We look at wide receivers PPR fantasy score game like this season versus the Rams when they logged 2 targets. Obviously, a ton of upside here for those type of players. But if we also look something interesting, Deebo Samuel, again, this is StatMuse, by the way. PPR fantasy score game log. Again, log versus Rams career. He has an insane hit rate of just massive games versus the Rams. Like, aside from last season in this game where he had 5.2, before that, he was over in, I think this is 8 straight games, 7 straight games, 22, 23, 29, 30, 24, 18, and 15.9. And obviously this goes back, back to 2019 till now, and, teams change, usage change. But he plays really well against the Rams. He also has played kind of pretty decent on Thursday Night Football and primetime games here. And then also look at this quote from George Kittle, right? I'm not going to play the video. I don't want to get copyrighted. But yeah, I guess on Tuesday, someone asked Kittle about Samuel's struggles, and here's what he said. What do you think about Deebo tweeting that he's struggling not getting the ball? Deebo is one of our best playmakers, and while he may not have all the stats to show for it this year, touchdowns and stuff like that, he's got a couple of called back against the Bears. There's opportunities that he had trying to make the most of them. Fortunately, one of a couple of those things, et cetera, et cetera. To me, Deebo is very close to breaking it wide open. I think he's going to have one of those amazing Deebo Thursday night games, especially against the Rams. That's what I see. Guys want to voice their opinions on social media. It is what it is. Deebo thinks highly of himself. We all think highly of him, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I mean, I'm not saying necessarily the 49ers are looking to get him the ball, but for a player like Deebo, in different ways he can impact the game, and in different ways he can score fantasy points. 12 fantasy is extremely low for him, considering all the injuries that the 49ers defense essentially does have in this one. So again, I do like Deebo Samuel over 12 fantasy score in this game. I do think it is a buy low. Honestly, truly, I think it's a buy low. So 2 player props for this YouTube video: NFL, Thursday Night Football. Hopefully we get a good competitive game. Please drop a like on this video. You guys hit the subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.